My lobster magnet. Lobster's a 10, I haven't told you grab it.
Welcome to Lobster Magnet's Review, the channel, the review. I am here alone, and I'm going to try out a new solo review format that I like to think is an interesting hybrid of my two versions of, the more in-depth, heavily edited video essays, but, are slightly a little bit not quite as, a little bit more production quality than my traditional video essays, but better than my video reviews to see what you guys think, see what the reaction is. Originally I had good old Goro over here. I tried to catch him up with Game of Thrones because I wanted to do this review with him. That was a failed endeavor. It was a noble cause on my part. Even if I got all the time I wanted to get out of him, I think we might have gotten to maybe season 5 or 6 at most. I don't think we would have gotten completely caught up. But it was a noble effort, and who knows, maybe I'll get him caught up and he can review the last few episodes. But for now, it's just going to be me on my own, and I'm going to review episodes 1 and 2 of the Season 7 of Game of Thrones, Dragonstone and Stormborn. Now, I'm just kind of okay on them. Dragonstone is your traditional Game of Thrones, let's set up the table, let's show where everyone is right now, let's sort of put the pieces in place for the more interesting stuff to happen. But because we're kind of in the endgame, I'm a little bit impatient with that. It's just there are two central conflicts. There's everyone in the land versus Cersei, and then there's the conflict of course, the White Walkers. And to me, Cersei isn't really a threat. There's this sort of oh my god, Cersei's so empowered, powerful woman, yeah, we love powerful women, and there are great women characters in Game of Thrones. Cersei is not one of them. Cersei is a moron. In some ways, I can sort of empathize with Cersei in the fact that, she's this very vindictive, spiteful person who thinks she's smarter than she is just because she lashes out immaturely at people she perceives as a threat. And if I'm playing Risk, I'll be that kind of person. If you slight me, I'll just, have this vindictive path of vengeance and just, keep on going to my own self, against my own self-interest, to just, throw all of my units at you in a vain attempt to try and, reciprocate the damage you gave me. And obviously I'm not a great Risk player. I'm a terrible Risk player. And Cersei is a terrible person at playing the Game of Thrones. And we're trying to, oh my god, she destroys all of her enemies. No, she's turned everyone into an enemy, and she has no more cards to play. The Lannisters aren't as rich as they used to be. They have nothing, Jaime points out that they have, no allies, they've ostracized everyone. So it's just sort of alright, unleash the dragons, let's have this, we all know how this is gonna end. Cersei's gonna be surrounded by all sides, she's gonna become the Mad Queen and try and, pull a, Aerys Targaryen and burn down King's Landing, and Jaime Lannister's gonna turn out to be the Vargal and be the one who kills himself in a cyclical action that, he killed the Mad King, so now he's gonna kill the Mad Queen and, be depressed or kill himself or something like that. That, to me, seems like the only way that this story is going to end. And, it's just sort of get on with it. And, in the first episode, they introduced Euron Greyjoy, who... Euron, to me, just feels like a waste of time. He was a waste... He's in the fourth book, A Feast for Crows, there are lots of cool things that are introduced. All the stuff in Dorne is, really cool on paper. In theory, Euron is super intriguing, but they don't really do anything. They're just sort of these wastes of time, especially with Dorne. I should make a video about that, because, in both, in the books, Dorne is a little better than it's much better than it is in the TV show, but it's still, it's stuff that's cool on paper. Oh my god, the Red Viper has, 7 daughters, and they're all, bastard daughters, and they're called the Sand Snakes, and they're these, feisty, fire spots of women. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, Duran Martell's kind of neat because he's this calm guy who's, running the land of Inigo Montoya's, and he has to deal with all this bullshit while he's, trying to be the only sensible person to rule Dorne. That's interesting, much more interesting than he is in the show. Ariana Martel is an interesting character, but, it makes sense as to why they didn't want to use her. Just because, all she does is complicate things, and, things are as super complicated as is. We don't need, another, character when Ilaria Sand is someone we've spent more time with, so it makes sense as opposed to hiring another new actor than to just use someone in that role. And, she's just kind of okay. She's just aggressively okay. And so I don't think anyone's going to be, crying her loss when she eventually loses the Game of Thrones. Euron Greyjoy is the most ultimate non-villain, non-threat you can... Oh, I've got a bunch of ships, what are you gonna do? At least in the book he has that stupid dragon horn, which it seems like they're just gonna, completely abandon and not even bother with. And it's oh my god, yeah, Cersei and Euron, this guy who was introduced at the very last minute, who feels like a complete and utter non-threat. Let's let this Confederacy of Dunces, reach its end so we can move on to the big White Walker War that we want to see. And it's also we're not getting the full 10-episode complement. We're getting, 7 episodes. So if we're not going to get, those 3 extra episodes, then I want to see that money be put into, dragon battles and cool shit. And... I want, every other episode to be a battle of, Castle Black or Hardhome or, Battle of the Bastards. I demand that level of quality, so I don't want to just have people just sit around and plot and plan. It's we know what they need to do. Go do it. And, there's a lot of reflecting upon the histories of these characters, which, even like Game of Thrones, when it's the boring scenes are also still interesting. And we get a little payoff with Arya meeting up with Hot Pie and meeting Nymeria and sort of reflecting on what she's become as she's, kind of reasserting her original identity of Arya Stark to reunite with Jon Snow, which is obviously something we want to see. And you know what I'm also kind of sick of? I'm, sick of, Sansa Stark, they're trying to position her, oh, the ladies of Game of Thrones are taking over, we're good. Sansa Stark, through her horrible time, she's now going to become, this super smart, political savvy person, but we have not, I cannot think of, one smart thing she suggested. There's that scene in, the Battle of the Bastards, where she's we must wait, we don't have the right people, and Jon Snow, okay, what do you got? What do you got? Tell me what your brilliant plan is. And she gives them one good insight that, Rickon is dead, don't bother with Rickon, but she doesn't have enough insight or military planning to, give anything else, except for the fact that, Peter Baelish is gonna, come up with a bunch of lords from the Vale. And, which of course she doesn't tell Jon Snow, which just makes her seem terrible like a moron. And, we're supposed to believe that she's this great political leader who's been understudying Littlefinger and Cersei, and now she finally understands how to play the Game of Thrones. Oh my god, she knows that, Littlefinger just wants to sleep with her, so she's gonna use that. But she's not done anything smart. She's not done anything to sort of, really earn that. And the fact that she, undermines Jon Snow's authority, persistently, it's fuck you! Who the fuck do you think you are? You're just being, this, condescending bitch to your poor bastard brother who's now King of the North. And it's if you want to sell this, then make Sansa do something smart. Give her, a scene worthy of Tyrion, some political maneuvering, so he doesn't feel just a moron. Because, now she's just, a rule blocker. I mean, I guess now that she's, in charge of the North, we'll have to see if she has any good fortitude, since Jon Snow is going to meet with Daenerys, which is obviously not a trap, and, the big, Song of Fire and Ice that we've been waiting for since the beginning of the series that, we've been playing up. I guess the first episode for me was kind of a 6. It was okay. It was, fun to see everyone back. And, obviously seeing Daenerys go to, Storm, Dragonstone is, a huge deal. But there's a part of me that's get on with it. Let's see you use that incredible budget for something worthwhile. Let's see something cool. Let's see something big and epic. And we kind of get that in episode 2 in Stormborn, where everything seems like they're moving smoothly for the good guys, but then good old Euron, intercepts Yara, Theon, and Ilaria Sand's transport and kills the Sand Snakes, which I feel like a lot of people are going to kind of because the Sand Snakes are kind of insufferable. The only good scene they have is when Oleana, dresses them down. I love that scene so much. Shut up! You're an innocent little child who dresses like a little boy. I don't need to hear from you. And that was a great scene. That was exactly what we need to see from them. Because their storyline is kind of terrible, and, all it does is just waste time. The Sand Snakes have not been... They're a cool idea on paper, but they were wasting time in the books. They never really paid off for anything. And in the TV show, they're even more of a waste of time. Jamie's whole thing of like, oh, I gotta go down to Dorne to save Marcella, was the ultimate example of like a show treading water and keeping their main cast present. It was not great content. It was probably the weakest thing we've seen in the show thus far. And, and also it's a good villain moment for Euron to establish that he's a threat, a credible threat, because like, oh, I'm the mad pirate king is not enough to like make him feel credible. Like, oh my god, maybe they lost the Dorne and the Yara's fleet, but they still have 8,000 unsullied, and they still have 3 motherfucking dragons who could probably incinerate Euron 3. Oh yeah, Cersei, Qyburn built like a quiver. The fucking bolt is gonna kill the dragons. Oh my god. The 3 motherfucking fire-breathing death monsters that are like the 747, the unconquerable beasts, are going to be brought down by stationary bolts. Ugh. I'm going to groan so hard. There's this rumor that was like going around that like there's going to be this scene where Jon Snow has to get a white to like get help from the crown, so he makes an expedition beyond the northern wall, and he almost gets killed, and he's surrounded by the Night King. And then Daenerys comes with her 3 dragons to save the day, but the Night King kills one, and then rises it as his dragon steed and uses it to burn the wall. I have no idea if any of this is going to become true. It's like a rumor that was like going around, but we all know that there's like fake rumors. But you know what? I'd accept that. That'd be neat. I'd like some undead dragon on regular dragon actions. And given the fact how like there's only 2 surviving Stark wolves, all 3 of those dragons are not making it to the end. We're gonna lose at least 2. Maybe all. No, I don't know. I think one of them's gonna survive. I'd be very surprised if Drogon doesn't make it to the end. But I think we're gonna at least lose 1 or 2 before everything's said and done. All 3 of those dragons are not. So, it's like, deploy the dragons! Deploy the dragons! Let's get this over with. Let's see some cool shit. But, that last scene with Euron doing the raid was very enjoyable. I love that with him just, like, selling him. One of the things that sort of sold Ramsay Bolton back in, Game of Thrones, the earlier seasons, is when there's that scene where Yara's trying to, like, save Theon from him, and then Ramsay comes out after, like, being with some girl, and he's, like, covered with blood, and he's got that knives on him, and, like, you don't know what he's doing. Is he, like, did he kill her? Did they have some sort of weird blood play sex fetish? But he just looks so game. He's like, all right, let's have some fun. It's like a great, like, Joker moment that is, like, just brilliant. And, even though he's a horrible, despicable person, it sells you on the character because he's, like, enjoying what he's doing and he's having a great time doing it. So, that's a great example of, like, Ramsay Bolton selling his villainy, and Euron Greyjoy starting to, like, feel threat in the sense that, like, oh, he's, like, killing named characters, and he's, putting a thorn in Daenerys' plan's side, and assumingly that's going to be his gift to Cersei, Yara and Ilaria Sand, which would be a decent enough gift, but still, like, Euron's a non-entity. It's like, oh, he's got a fleet, big deal. Daenerys has a bigger one, and she's got dragons, so what are you going to do? I'd be very surprised if he manages to live on it. And I feel like he's not a character that, like, anyone's gonna, like, particularly remember or like that much. He's just kind of meh. But, there was a great scene of him raiding it, so I like him a little bit better. He's still got a long way to go before he, like, justifies his presence and villainy in the show. So fingers crossed. So I definitely think the second episode was stronger. I'd give it an 8. I mean, there was a lot of, like, wheel spinning in the earlier parts, but, that big payoff Brava action scene at the end, it was like, it was funny. You're getting this sort of like, the sort of like, ooh, Game of Thrones is so progressive. Whoa, look at Yara and Ilaria. They're like this interracial couple. They're gonna have this like lesbian relationship, and then like Euron like storms in with his Kraken ship, and he's like, this is still Game of Thrones, so you're gonna get some bitches cut up brutally. So it was kind of like this nice reminder of like, this is what the series' true DNA is. We're not getting too progressive, as even though we've got this like queen who's gonna like take over the Iron Throne. We still got mad motherfuckers like Euron who are willing to, keep on going with that toxic patriarchy that has defined the Game of Thrones universe. So, you know, it was definitely a good episode. I want to see, like, something more dramatic. Like, you know, I was kind of annoyed about the Grey Worm Missandei love scene. It just felt like, at this point in the game, like, you know, every second is precious, and these are, like, tertiary characters at best. I don't know. Respond to me in the comments below. Or are there people out there who are, like, so, you know, invested in this relationship of, you know, Barack Obama Grey Worm being, like, the ultimate boyfriend because he can, like, cause no damage and seek no pleasure, but gives it, and he seeks physical affection and touching. Like, I guess that's ultimate boyfriend material. I'm sure there's, like, some people on Tumblr or someone out there who's gonna, like, make this post about how, like, Euron Greyjoy, how Grey Worm is the ultimate feminist boyfriend because he's caring and he doesn't have a dick, and see, this is what the feminists want. They want you to be castrated, so you just go down on them. I'm sure someone out there is going to write an interesting gender studies post of MRA red pill bullshit on it. And for me, it felt like bullshit, not so much because of that, just because, like, I don't give a shit about these two characters. I'm not invested in their relationship. I don't care. We have far more interesting and more important people that deserve screen time, and, you know, considering this is the end game and we only have X amount of hours left with these characters, you know, I want every second to count. Like, I'm a little forgiving about, like, you know, the Hound getting his, like, redemption story arc, unless there's some really big payoff in the end. Like I want to see big action, I want to see big movements, I want to see some big, you know, cathartic things. You know, I want the season to end with, like, the Night King storming across the wall, and then the next 6 episodes are this epic movie battle as, you know, they fight a losing war trying to hold back his undead army as he slowly gains ground until some magic dragon bullshit ends it all in some epic confrontation. You know, I want stuff that matters. You know, I'd be more patient if we were getting 10 episodes, but we're not. We only have X amount of hours left. Game of Thrones is coming to an end. Everything is ending. You know, the winter is here. So, you know, let's end this all at a bang. Let's have the most engaging material possible. So, you know, but next week will probably be exciting, especially seeing the fallout. And, you know, let's get rid of Cersei. Let's see the stupid queen, like, you know, actually have some bad shit happen. Finally, after all of her terrible decisions, because she deserves it. She's not a smart person. She deserves her terrible end that's eventually going to come. And so we can move on to more interesting things. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Dragonstone and Stormborn. 2 alright episodes for, like, the final end. I hope we get, you know, some more interesting episodes, and hopefully you like this review format. Pretty neat. A little better than what I normally do, since I just kind of, like, you know, turn on the web camera and have at it. Okay. If you enjoyed this, go buy these Game of Thrones Dragon Funko Pops. You know, up there on the top of the, you know, the link is in the description. Go to Amazon affiliate, click on the link, buy them. If not, buy something else that you want. It helps me out. It's a good way for you to get shit you want and me to get teensy little bit of cash to justify my existence and help feel me rewarded for making stuff. Alright, so thank you. Hope you enjoyed this, like, little rant and new format. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. And hope you have a wonderful day. I'll be back next week, probably not with Greg, since I don't think I'm going to get him to get caught up. But I am most certainly going to continue to review Game of Thrones, because I like talking about Game of Thrones. Who knows, maybe I'll do a video or two in the future, because I have interesting things that I'd like to show you. But anyway, thank you for your time. Have a good one. And remember, lobsters and tennis, but don't you grab it.
Lobsters made of light.